What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Square Gamers Podcast, the podcast where a couple dudes just chill and talk about video games. I am one of your hosts, Jay Lewis, and joining me today is my fellow joystick junkie, Pedro Mirabal. How you doing today, Pedro?
What is going on, man? R.I.P. I am legendary Mike, a.k.a. Michael Soto. And yes, I did say also known as Michael Soto, because he walks around like his first name is his gamer tag. That's how big of a gamer he is. R.I.P. that man's computer. It died late last week. We had a nice funeral. We buried it. He may not be on the podcast for the next little while. We poured one out for him.
Yeah, we poured one out.
But for now, the inmates are running the asylum, boy. Let's go.
Yeah.
The cat is away, and us mice, we're gonna play.
Yeah. I'm wondering if his CPU blew out because he was so busy looking at all these leaks that have been all over the internet this week. We're roughly 3 weeks from E3, so we've all seen the Assassin's Creed leak that happened today. Did you see that one?
I saw a little bit of it. Assassin's Creed. I have a bad taste in my mouth for, so I didn't read too much into it. I did see the Far Cry leak where it says it's going to be an open world in the Wild Wild West. That piqued my interest.
Yeah, but from the looks of it, that's not entirely it's almost debunked at this point, right? Because Ubisoft got on their social media accounts and they were showing off images of Far Cry 3 setting, and then it had an update image of Rook Island that had a skeleton in the water underneath the island. So it makes me think that we're going somewhere back in that setting. Perhaps it's a prequel. We'll learn more about Voss, which is the most beloved character in the Far Cry series. But yeah, while all that rumors going on that Ubisoft has made for themselves, then there's all this other rumors going on about Far Cry and us going in this Western setting. Simply because I guess somebody was able to figure out the setting is going to be Montana, and all these news outlets just started kind of running with it, and they were actually, this is the hilarious part, they were citing what is his name, Jason Schreier, I want to say, from over at Kotaku.
Jason Schreier.
Schreier, yeah, Jason Schreier. Thanks for correcting me. But they were saying that he was the originator of the rumor, and he had to kind of put them all in check and let all these outlets know, you're doing some bad journalism. I never said that. All I said is that it was simply had a Montana setting. So who knows what the truth is? There was an image that leaked right along with the rumor. It could have been just fan fiction, some guy out there just drew an image. But me loving the Far Cry franchise, Far Cry 3 is my favorite game of all time. I like to think that if I was Ubisoft, I'd try to bring it back to the Far Cry 3 setting. So that's where I think they're headed. But on top of that leak, yeah, there was the Assassin's Creed image that was all over the internet, had the internet on fire today, and it showed the main protagonist. He was chilling in this, it looked like a single person sailboat, and it was it showed the water, and you see what looks like a windmill in the background. So the screenshot looked really, really good, and it piqued my interest. It showed a bow and arrow around his back, and it actually showed the character with the shield. So in my head, I'm thinking, how in the hell can you shoot a bow and arrow and have a shield at the same time? But that's just me. But yeah, the image looked pretty dope, so it had fans hype. But in terms of leaks, have you seen any other E3 leaks rolling around that I haven't seen?
No, the two big ones are those two. Now I'm reading a little bit more about this Assassin's Creed leak here, and it's telling me that it's boats are coming back after Black Flag, which is arguably the best Assassin's Creed game that's come out since the new generation of consoles. Yeah. It looks like it's going to be. It looks like a story from 2016 by Kotaku said that the game would be set in Egypt, which is kind of weird. Yeah. Because again, there's bows and arrows and shields, but I mean, maybe he's a Roman.
Yeah. Who knows? Well, and then they were saying that the body of water that you see in the image could be the Nile River. So, but take that all with a grain of salt. This is all leaks coming up before E3. It could be, it could hold up. It could be debunked pretty quickly, which is why we're waiting to do our E3 podcast before the week before E3. But this is not an E3 podcast this week. This week, myself and Pedro would like to share with the world our favorite 5 games of the last 5 years. So that fully encompasses this whole generation, plus a year, right? I think we're 4 years in. Okay, yeah.
Yep, so like the end of the 360 PS3 era to now. So I mean, this is a topic that's been floating around the gaming scene, and we'd like to jump in and kind of share our thoughts of the best games for the last 5 years.
Yeah, and I think me and you being like more casual gamers than the audience out there, I think our lists are going to look vastly different than other people's lists. But nonetheless, let's get into it. Pedro, let's go in descending order. So why don't you give me your number 5?
Number 5 would be 2016, which is last year.
Wait. Favorite. Hold on. All right, so let's start in 2012. I'm sorry. Let's go.
Okay.
Down.
So we're going in. Yeah. All right, my bad. So we're going in ascending order, or we're going from oldest to newest. Yeah. However you want to say it. So for 2012, 2012 was a great year for gaming. Let me just get that out there first. The original Walking Dead Telltale game dropped, Mass Effect 3, you had Far Cry 3, Diablo 3 came out, Borderlands 2, you have Black Ops 2 out, Sleeping Dogs, which is another underrated game. You had Halo 4 come out. And that's all in 2012. I mean, I don't know what I did with all my money back then, but I can tell you what, it was mostly spent on video games.
That year is fire.
Oh, dude, that year is probably one of the most stacked years that we've had in a while. But for me, the game that took me away from playing the multiplayer juggernaut that was Call of Duty. And this is something that Mike has mentioned in the past, but when Mass Effect 3 came out, no one heard from me. There was no let's get in a party chat and just shoot the breeze while we're playing video games. Talk crap about the work day or something like that. It was I'm gonna get on. I'm gonna go to I'm gonna get on Mass Effect 3. I'm gonna explore this world, and I'm gonna finish the game and make sure that I have all my characters alive at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And the story, I've never actually played the game. I've never played any Mass Effect. I think I toyed around with the multiplayer a little bit in the past, but I've never actually played the campaigns. But I do hear about how good the story is, and just how different the story can end, depending on the choices you make. And that's why the game has such a cult following. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. Graphically it was great. The multiplayer was amazing because once I, disappeared and went into my single player mode, I came back and played with Mike for, several weeks, maybe even months, just, losing hours to the multiplayer. So
is that the one that I used to jump on with you guys?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, so then I did play some Mass Effect 3, and I do remember really loving the multiplayer. I can't really speak on the single player, but I really loved the multiplayer. Now, what is your relationship with the Mass Effect as a trilogy? Like, did you play the two before it, or was this kind of like this one just hit at the right time for you?
Oh no, I played all three. Mike got me into the series. I really wasn't an RPG guy, but he said, you know what, you should try this out. The second Mass Effect was more of an action RPG than a traditional RPG. Then I went back and played the first one, just so I could. So I played the second one first, then went back, played the first one, then played the second one again, and then played the third one just so I could have the same Shepard throughout the series. Which is something that I normally don't do because, as you said, at the top of the show, I'm more of a casual gamer. And by that meaning, if there's something else to do, I'm going to go do that as opposed to play video games. That's just, that's just where the hobby lands for me, which is kind of weird because I'm on a video game podcast right now talking about video games.
Right? Well, you're like me. We love the culture more than we probably like video games themselves. Like, just the mass audience that's out there. It's just like a better breed of individuals, I feel like gamers are. But did you play the last one that just came out, Mass Effect 4?
So Mike and I tried it. We were very disappointed in the multiplayer aspect of the game. At that time, the single player still hadn't been patched, so I wasn't gonna waste my time with it. I redboxed it. He redboxed it. We played like a night, a nice 3-4 hour stint, and we were like, this isn't for us. So after that, I just kind of dropped it. I was really disappointed with the game, but I will revisit it later once it's on sale and all the updates have kind of fixed the issues that the game has, because I do want to give it its due, give it its due diligence and try it again.
Yeah, and just as we're talking about Mass Effect, I did read today earlier that the studio has laid off quite a few people in the wake of Mass Effect 4 since it didn't do so well commercially. So, hearts out to the people that lost their jobs. Hopefully they can get back on their feet real quick. But that's just where we're at in 2017 when there's so many good games that are coming out. Actually, Mass Effect 4 was probably the first game, this year that came out and didn't live up to the hype or expectations. So, so let me tell you, 2012, my favorite game of 2012 is Far Cry 3. The reason I love this game so much is I'm super, super big into open world games. And my favorite character that I've ever encountered in a game came from that game, and that was the character I talked about at the beginning of the show, Voss. I felt like his voice acting was incredible. Just the way his character on screen matched the way he was talking. I don't feel like it's ever been so well done in a video game before, outside of maybe The Last of Us. And it's been a character that's just kind of stuck with me through the years. And I've always toyed around with getting like a video game tattoo, and I'm really thinking about getting a Voss tattoo. So, this is, again, I said at the top of my show, my favorite game of all time, hands down. I love getting lost in that open world. You can play the game however you want to play it. If you're someone who wants to get all the upgrades right up front, you can, go hunt all these different animals and skin them and get bigger ammo pouches or more, more quivers so you can hold more arrows for your bow and arrow, bigger ammo pouches, all that stuff. Or you can just get right into the story and just start tackling the story missions. It was a really, really good game for me. One of the most interesting things that came out of the game is how Voss was not the main villain in the game. And in fact, I can't even remember the main villain's name because Voss just was so much better. And people are saying that if that's where we're headed in the new Far Cry, if we're going back to Rook Island, like, let's not even worry about the other villain that was in that game. Just give me more Voss. So, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. What do you think about that?
I mean, the game sounds cool. I remember you trying to get me into the game, and it just didn't click for me. Far Cry 4 did a far better job of getting me into that world. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a multiplayer game that you could also create your own multiplayer levels, right? This is kind of had a Forge mode before, well, not before Forge mode, but just kind of a Forge mode when it comes to creating multiplayer levels, or was that a different Far Cry?
No, you're absolutely correct. Actually, 1, 2, and 3 allowed you to do that, and it was actually the fourth one that finally just cut it. And there was a big outcry from the community because that's what the Far Cry community was like. That's why it had legs, because once you were done with the campaign, you could head over to multiplayer and build your own maps and import them online. The only real problem I think that they encountered was they couldn't figure out how to filter out the bad maps and solely focus on the good maps. And it's been something that the fans of the series have been crying, or there's been an outcry is what I'm trying to say, to bring it back. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see it returning in this next Far Cry. It's something that I miss. I lost so many hours just building that game, and some of the maps that users created are they'll blow your mind. Like, somebody recreated Jurassic Park in the Far Cry 3 engine and made a whole map out of it, and it's just phenomenal, some of the things that these creative people were able to do. And that was definitely one of the game's hooks for me. And I find it very weird that it was the fourth one that kind of resonated with you, because out of all the Far Cry games that ever come out, that's the only one I haven't beat, and it's the only one I didn't love. Because for me, I felt like what they tried to do is capitalize on what they were able to do with the third one and have a really good villain, and then bring that into the fourth one, and it just kind of fell flat for me. And I think it did a lot of others as well, because on Metacritic it didn't do as good as some of the other Far Cry. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Give me your 2013 pick.
So for 2013,
that was a juicy year. Woo!
Give me 1 second here. Let's take a look at 2013 in a nutshell here. And let's see. Sorry. All right. So 2013. In recap, we had BioShock Infinite, Grand Theft Auto 5, The Last of Us, Gone Home, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Saints Row 4, Battlefield 4. Let's see. Call of Duty Ghosts, which was super underwhelming. Super Mario 3D World, the Devil May Cry remake, Dead Space 3, Pikmin 3, StarCraft 2, the Far Cry 3 DLC, the Blood Dragon, God of War Ascension, Batman Arkham Origins, and I mean this list is State of Decay. Gran Turismo 6, the original Outlast. I mean, so many choices, bro, man.
The original Outlast is probably one of my favorite, smaller indie games of all time. And then you got Batman Arkham on that list. Dude, GTA. You said GTA 5, correct?
Yeah.
Dude, 2013 is stacked. So you got to give me it, bro. What's your 2013 pick?
I had a hard time deciding which one I wanted to go with, man. I didn't play The Last of Us in 2013. I actually played it when I got the PlayStation a couple years later. Assassin's Creed Black Flag, like I said, is probably the best Assassin's Creed I've ever played, and definitely the best one that has come out in a really, really long time.
I remember playing Black Flag, and that was the first game that I played on the new generation console that really kind of wowed me. The water textures, that just beautiful Caribbean colored blue water. I could not stop just staring at it. And the vistas, when you got way up in the mountains and you could just look down at the coast, that game, oh my god. I bet to this day if you go back and play it, it still holds up.
Oh yeah, for sure. That game set the bar for what we thought what Assassin's Creed was going to become, and then they went downhill from there, man. Yeah. A game I really, 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 really liked, man, was BioShock Infinite. I played that game from beginning to end. Loved it. Absolutely, absolutely loved it. It was a great change of pace game that came out during a time where there really wasn't anything else out. So I really, really enjoyed, sinking my teeth into that BioShock game. Fun fact: first BioShock game I ever finished, because I never finished the original one, because I got into the Call of Duty phase. But the game of the year for 2013 has to go to Grand Theft Auto 5. That game is probably the closest to a modern day masterpiece that you'll ever get.
Yeah, and it still has a cult following to this day, even though it came out, almost 4 years ago, and it continues to get free updates, and people keep dumping money into it. It's the number one game on the top 10 sales charts, unless a new game comes out and is charting. I mean, every single month after month, that game cracks the top 10, and it's just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that game, it didn't come out with multiplayer. It came out just straight single player. The fact that you have 3 protagonists and that you're playing through the story from 3 different points of view. Voice acting was great. Controls were great. Graphically, it was a beautiful looking game. It pushed the limits of an Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Then it came out on 2014 and basically pushed the limits of the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 at that time. And then, of course, your multiplayer came out, and it just turned into this big thing that we see now. But for 2013, I don't think you can find a better game than Grand Theft Auto 5. What do you got?
I beg to differ, my good man. But I will say this. I will say that GTA 5 is quite a beast of a game, and I will say that I definitely dumped more hours into that game, and I actually still play to this day. I just got on the other day because they just put up this new update called Tiny Racers, and if you got on during the weekend, you got all this money as a reward or whatever. But the game that I felt was better for me, in a game that's going to stick with me for the rest of my life, is The Last of Us. You know me. I'm huge into zombies, and even though they don't call them zombies in this game, they call them clickers. Those motherfuckers scared the shit out of me, bro. Like, whenever you were going through that game and they just started making that clicking noise, like, dude, like, it literally made the hair in the back of my neck stand up. Here I am playing that game with 7.1 Dolby Digital headphones, and like the sound design in that game is something that cannot be overlooked, and they really set the bar like for sound design. And then like, don't even get me into the visuals, bro. Like, this is a little spoilerly, but come on, that game's like super old now. So there's a part in the game where you're kind of get around a zoo, and you're on this rooftop. And when you open the door and you look out into the vista, these giraffes just passed by, Pedro. And when that happened to me, dude, like, it made me feel so tiny and insignificant. And, like, it's the first time that I can remember a video game touching me like that. And it's just it's an image that will permanently be embedded in my skull. And, Joel and Ellie, the way they kind of, like, their relationship progresses as you play through the game, like, it's outstanding. He starts treating her as a daughter even though she's not, but he lost a daughter, so it's almost like he's replacing her, and, like, there's just so much going on. And then, like, on top of it, the DLC that you get to play, like, hands down, it's the best DLC I've ever played. Again, just adding to the story bits, boosting Ellie's character up, like, super, super big. And what they were able to do in this game, the fact that there's a second one coming out, they have laid this trail of breadcrumbs to where I wouldn't be surprised if she's like my I hope we play not solely, but mostly as her in the sequel. So That's why that game was a beast for me, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that game, um, having played it on the PS4, I can tell you that the game is visually stunning. The story was amazing. I really, really liked that. I think the one thing that started out for me was the beginning, man. The way it just came out in the, it just it started like a movie to me, and I was just like, man, these guys did a really, really good job just kind of immersing you in the world from the beginning, from the first cutscene, from that first time where you're running out. And everyone, and you're in the crowd, and you're running through the cars, and
yeah, the
you're trying to
pacing
find
was
your
so
daughter.
good. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
man.
And the camera angles, everything, man.
That got me. That really. I was like, okay, this is a real game here. This is why I bought my PlayStation 4.
Yeah, and something that's super understated about The Last of Us is its multiplayer. Now, did you get to dabble in that at all? I mean, most people just completely overlooked it.
I played the multiplayer for a little bit. It was very similar to, what Uncharted provides.
Yep. You're not wrong about that.
So I was like,
I think it's the best version of tug of war that you're gonna get in multiplayer. Like, I probably dumped 40 hours into the multiplayer, and if I would have had someone to play with, it would have gone even deeper than that. Like, if you had 3 buddies to roll with, and you had a full party going on, like that was phenomenal. The way that you could throw those like concussion grenades to where it would stun the enemy, and you could go up and just like beat them to death, dude. Like, it's so raw, and what's so good is it fit the actual narrative of the story in the multiplayer, because you're not going out there and getting these ridiculous weapons like a rocket launcher. No, the same lore that was in the story, it kind of made its way into the multiplayer, and I just think that it's something that gets kind of overlooked, and it makes me wonder how they're going to capitalize on it in the second one, because I really think that they can, and I think that it's going to be quite a beast of a multiplayer in the second one. So we don't really need to talk too much more about The Last of Us. Everybody knows how good that game is. I mean, it was a hugely commercial success. It's one of Sony's biggest new franchises, and great game for me. So moving on to 2014, bro, give it to me.
All right, so 2014, it was an interesting year to say the least. Dragon Age Inquisition came out. We had Middle Earth: Shadow of Mordor, which was a very a revolutionary game. The second iteration of Dark Souls came out, Dark Souls 2. Far Cry 4, which again was a personal favorite of mine. Titanfall, another revolutionary game to come out for the first person shooter genre in 2014. Mario Kart 8, which was super dope. South Park and the Stick of Truth, which a lot of people played and loved. Shovel Knight, which is an absolute juggernaut, released that year too. We've got Destiny, another. Would you say Destiny is a revolutionary game? I would say so, because of the mesh of being an MMO RPG plus a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
Super Smash Brothers for the Wii came out that year as well. Forza Horizon 2 came out. The first Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. And Tales from the Borderland dropped in 2014 as well. Let's see. Game of Thrones,
which
for the
is
Telltale
actually
series,
free
man.
this month, bro. Which is actually free this month, by the way, if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber.
Definitely recommend you grab that one. Ground Zeroes came out in 2014. Then, of course, you have The Last of Us Remastered that came out for the PlayStation 4. But for me, my game of 2014 has to be Middle Earth: Shadow of Mordor. That, I think, has been the most revolutionary title in of this entire console generation. The Nemesis system is super fun. The fact that you could play Shadow of Mordor, get killed by somebody, he shows up in my game as a high leader in the hierarchy, and it says this is under Jay's nemesis, and I can go and I can avenge your death, and it can tell you that I avenged your death. To me, is amazing. Graphically, it looked great. It played super smooth. The RPG elements just made the game super fun to play. It was also paced very well. I never felt like I was underpowered. I felt like it was just right. Up until the end where you could, basically do anything. And at that point, there was a little bit of a feeling of being overpowered. But, I think the gameplay and just that Nemesis system is something that I would love to have. And damn near every game, to be honest with you. Because I feel like that's a very fun thing a very fun way to play a single player game, and adding that multiplayer-esque aspect of it, I think was super cool.
Yeah, and when people talk about Shadows of Mordor, they say that this is the first example of a game that could only be played on next-gen technology. So you could not have that Nemesis system back on PS3 and the Xbox 360, which is true. Being able to affect my world in your world. There's a lot that has to happen for that to go on. So I played the game. I was lucky enough to get it on a flash sale. I think I paid like $5 for the complete edition. How could I pass up the opportunity there? Things that stood out to me in the game were, I don't know if a game has done stealth better than that game. Like, I love how they use stealth in that game. It's so creative, like going in the tall grass and then, just kind of hide. And then when the enemy comes up to you, you can either lure him there, or if he just happens to walk by, you can pull him in and just choke him to death. And then, as you said, when you progress into the game, you start unlocking these new ways to kill the enemy, and one of them that I just love so much is when you kind of highlight the enemy with your bow and arrow, and then you just dart right to him, and then you just kill him with a savage attack. Like, I love beaming back and forth from enemy to enemy, doing that in the cover of darkness. None of the other ones knew I was there. The only way to play that game is to use stealth, man. Like, it's so good and so rewarding. The only issues, and it's probably because I started playing it wrong, it got a little repetitive for me, but it might have just been because I was having so much with the combat that I wasn't progressing the story, so that could have been my own fault. But yes, absolutely agree. I had to kind of go back and forth between that game and my pick, which is Destiny. Destiny, I'll be the first one to admit, it had a ton of flaws when it came out. Yes, it was Newsweek that did a whole magazine dedicated to Destiny, so you knew this was going to be a big deal game. It was Bungie's first game that they put out post Halo, so this was a super huge deal, and me and you grew up together playing Halo, so like the hype was through the roof, and it was one of those games where it's like no matter what they put out, it would never live up to the hype, because Halo was such a beloved franchise, but it hit everything I needed it to hit. I'm not someone who needs a ton of story in my games. Like, I like to just play the dang game. Like, that's why I like open world games. You kind of get to create your own narrative through just playing them. Destiny lacked a lot of story when it first came out. And I know I'm in the minority when I say that story doesn't really matter to me. But that was a big gripe about it, and I can see people's gripe. When you have one-liners in the game that say, "I don't even have time to explain why I don't have time. Those things cannot be overlooked. And again, even in the raids themselves, there's balancing issues. There's too many exploits that you could do. Like, you could cheese so many parts of the raid and just make it so easy. And then there was the RNG. So you could get the same damn pair of boots 100 times. And believe me, it happened to me. And then there was always that white whale of a weapon that everyone would be looking for, the little carrot in front of the carriage that kept you going and kept you invested in the game. But for me, like, I spent over 2,000 hours in the game, and I actually got to play with some friends, which added to the immersion and the awesomeness that was Destiny. And what the Destiny that we have today is such a beast of a game, so much more than what it was in 2014. All the expansions that have come out, all the rebalancing that they've done, all the RNG stuff that they've changed around, they have truly crafted a beautiful game. And we should be seeing more of the second one out of E3 this year. But that's why Destiny is my 2014 pick. What's your thoughts on Destiny?
I absolutely enjoyed Destiny the time that I played it. I, like you, had thought that it was very, very bare bones and very, very unfinished. But you know, I enjoyed the gameplay, I enjoyed the graphics, I enjoyed everything, about the game, especially the fact that, you know, it was very team-based. You kind of wanted to get your squad together and play, and I really enjoyed that. The raids are super dope too, man. Everything they did with the raids, where, you know, everybody kind of has their role that they have to play, or else it just, you know, you can't complete the raid. I thought was really cool. And as a person who's never done that before, that being my first experience, I'm super into, you know, I gotta go and you know, put these orbs, you know, in this specific order while everyone else fights off the enemies, or, you know, or vice versa. So I enjoyed it. I think the game has grown into one of the best games out for consoles. At that time in 2014, though, the only reason it didn't make my top games was because it was pretty bare bones.
Yeah. Like I said, no doubt about that it was. And I don't know if it would have made my list had I not have had people to play with. But the fact that I was able to get full raid parties together, and just all of us trying to figure out these raids together, like, it brought me together with individuals like gaming has never done before in the past, outside of Halo 2. Halo 2 was the exception. That's probably my favorite multiplayer game of all time. I have such fond memories of that. But, you know, it makes sense that, you know, the development team that made Halo 2, they branch out and they make Halo. So it made sense that I was going to enjoy it so much. But yeah, that for me was Destiny in a nutshell. So these next two, we'll run through them real quick. We're running a little long, but that's okay. We're really getting our talking points out. So, Pedro, what's your 2015?
My 2015, we won't run through what came out in 2015. 2015 was a super weak year anyway. Was Halo 5 Guardians.
Halo 5 Guardians. Look at that. Talking about... Oh, wait, no. This was... who is it now that's making it? 343 Studios?
343, yep.
Okay, I thought so.
Yep. So, that game to me was a return to form. Halo 4 was very... it had a lukewarm reception. I think that this game was much, much better. The difficulty as well, while playing it, was super dope. I mean, the fact that we didn't play as Master Chief and his team for most of the game, but, you know, gave people a sour taste in their mouths about it. But for me, I was cool with playing with Locke. I had no problem playing with the new character. Graphically, it looked great. The gameplay I thought was very reminiscent of Halo 3. It didn't have a lot of the Halo 4 tweaks to it, which was super dope, which was super cool. It had a great soundtrack too. I actually really really enjoyed the soundtrack of this one. I think that and you know what, it was the story was a little weak, but it was necessary to make Halo 6 or to make Halo 5 the game that it will be, or not Halo 5, Halo 6, the game that it will be coming up here, and I would assume next year. I would think that it may be in the launch window for the Scorpio, but we'll see. Well, come E3.
Yeah.
Plus, honestly, in 2015 there really wasn't much to choose from. It was either that or like Batman, and I just wasn't happy with the Batman game. So,
yeah. One thing I'll say, and this is I'm never gonna live this one down, but I didn't get to play Halo 5. I'm a one console household, so that being console exclusive to the Xbox world, I didn't get to play this one, but I kind of got to see enough, and I got to feel it out. For me, I kind of, from what I've seen, I knew this wasn't going to be that Halo 2 for me. I feel like there was definitely some missteps. I feel like they tried to make the multiplayer too esports friendly, if that makes any sense. They cleaned it up to the point to where it's like, for me, they took some fun out of it. Because, like, my fondest memories were, like, maps like Coagulation. And, like, these were kind of, like, more, like, arena-style multiplayer, maps. And that just kind of took it away from me. I've never been hugely invested in the actual campaign when I play a Halo game. For me, it's pretty much my place to go to release some stress and kill some noobs in the multiplayer world. So myself, and from what I saw online, a lot of other people agree that there were some missteps in multiplayer. Did you really get to touch on multiplayer that much? Pedro?
You cut out there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you get to play around with multiplayer at all?
Multiplayer for Halo 5 was actually really, really cool. The cool thing about the Halo 5 multiplayer is, you don't have to pay for the DLC. Like, everything is just given to you for free. So what they did was they turned the multiplayer into a platform, and then the maps and game modes would come for free. And then what you would do is you would spend your money on like these little war packs that give you cars that you could get, like weapons and upgrades and things like that, which really seemed to have worked out because it did help the community, and the community is supporting the game pretty strongly.
Yeah, definitely. I felt like they tried to make it just these arena battles for esports. I don't know if you heard that. Did you hear that part?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just making sure you heard that.
Yeah, it's definitely a super competitive game, which is probably the best thing they did with Halo 5 was the multiplayer. The single player, a lot of people were, were dissatisfied with it. But multiplayer, there are absolutely no complaints. It was actually better than people thought it was going to be. Multiplayer was.
For sure. My 2015 pick, and it's one that shocked even myself because I go out of my way to not play hard games. I don't like to beat my head up against the wall when playing a game. So the Soul series is something that does nothing for me, but when I saw Bloodborne and I saw the level design, and I saw like it had this werewolf look to it, like an old school London look. You got the vampires and all that stuff. I couldn't help but ignore it, or not ignore it. I had to play it, whether I got my butt kicked or not. And it has ended up being in my top 3 favorite games of all time. I love Bloodborne. It's such a great game. The level design is so smart. the way, like, when you die, it's kind of like you learn something from the death, and then you go back, like, with all that knowledge the second time around, finding these shortcuts through the level, so when you do die, you can kind of cut your time in half to get back to where you were at. And then, like, the farming of the echoes and all that stuff, like, it did such a good job of setting you up for these boss fights, throwing you into the fight, with no knowledge. And generally, if you encounter a boss in that game, you're gonna die. Like, that's just the way it is. It's kind of like you have to, just like a true fighter, you have to learn your enemy. And then if you learn your enemy and you're smart enough, you can exploit them and you can beat them. And that's what Bloodborne is. It is you dying over and over and over and over again, but every time you do, you learn something and you discover something new, and you get a new piece of gear, and you get right back in the fight. And just the graphics were amazing. It had this really, really dark feel to it. I really loved the enemy types. Everyone felt different than the one before it. There's actually this big, huge dungeon that you can go to that's completely optional, and it was my favorite part of the game, and it's a part that not everybody sees. You only see it if you're looking for it, so to speak. And Pedro, Mike being as big of a Souls guy as he is, I don't think he even found this dungeon. So... And, like, the hardest boss that I ever fought in that game, he never even encountered. So, I really loved it. It taught me a lot about video gaming. It taught me a lot about myself. I refused to be defeated by the game. And it spawned a lot of memes going around the internet. The Get Good memes. I'm sure you've seen them everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that for me is why Bloodborne was such a great game. Now, I'm assuming you didn't play it? Doesn't seem like
no,
a
I didn't play
game.
because of Souls type game. It just isn't, for me. But I can tell you what, Bloodborne carried 2015 for the PlayStation console. There really wasn't anything else out other than Bloodborne. So, good for them.
Yeah.
Good for,
Is that the same year that PlayStation had that exclusive? It was more of like a interactive story type of game. It was a horror game. I can't remember
Until
the
Dawn.
name. Is that the same year?
Yeah, it's the same year.
Because that was another phenomenal game that, like I didn't even think about that game until just now. But that might have, like, rivaled Bloodborne a little bit. Like, I actually got it from the Red Box, and I tried to power through it as fast as I could because it's only about a 12 to 15 hour playthrough. But man, that was a great game as well, man. Until Dawn, and I hope we do get a sequel to it. But yeah, that was my 2015 pick. What is your final pick? 2016, which was last year, so it should be fresh in your mind. What was your 2016?
My 2016, man, honestly, it's not going to be one of the big AAA titles, although we had, some great games like Uncharted 4 come out. But for me, as a Batman fan, I really, really enjoyed the take on the origins of Batman that Telltale went to, or kind of created. I absolutely loved that game for the flaws, for what it was, because every Telltale game has the same stupid frame rate issues that plagues every freaking game. I wish they would just get a new engine already, but that is what it is. Even for that, I really, really, really enjoyed the origins of Batman, what they did, how they kind of changed who Batman's parents were, what Bruce Wayne is going through now, playing as Bruce Wayne, and deciding to choose whether or not to tackle certain situations. I'm not going to get spoilery because, of course, the game is still fairly new with people. But in certain situations, you're allowed to either attack it with Bruce Wayne or as Batman, and kind of choose your influence that way. And for me, the fact that I could choose to take situation A and take that out as Bruce Wayne, but then situation B say, no, now the Batman is needed, was very, very cool, and something that I really, really hope that they continue doing with season 2.
Yeah, for sure. That's another one that unfortunately I didn't get to play. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Did this have a VR mode in it, or am I thinking of something else?
That absolutely had VR mode, which was super fun.
Yeah.
Oh, no. There is a different thing. I'm sorry. There is a Batman VR game, which is just like you being underneath the mask, but not the actual game.
Okay, so that wasn't this game?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did not get to play this one. I go out of my way to skip the Telltale games because, like you said, they're always crashing. That engine is just I don't want to mess with it. As big as a Batman fan as I am, I feel like this game has come out at a time to where I have like superhero franchise fatigue. Like, I don't want to do anything in the superhero world anymore because every time I turn around, there's a new freaking Marvel movie or a new DC movie, or this is coming out or that's coming out, and I just really feel like I want to play that game where I feel like there's been a drought. You feel me on that?
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
I'm gonna play it. It's just gonna come at a time where I can like play it and not feel like I just freaking watched some big new Marvel movie. But yes, I did hear a lot of people like that game. Now, to wrap this up, my 2016 pick, I was gonna cheat and pick a game that didn't come out in 2016 because it was originally an Xbox timed exclusive. See if you can guess what game I'm referring to. It was a
Tomb Raider.
Yep, absolutely. I feel like that is the best Tomb Raider game, like, of all Tomb Raiders. It was such a good game, and I even would put it above the latest Uncharted. I like the weapon combat in Tomb Raider much more than I liked it in Uncharted. I feel like it just kind of handled better, like the climbing was better, and so many people have fought me on this, but at the end of the day, I feel how I feel, and the visuals were spectacular. I really like what they did to clean up the look of Laura. She doesn't look like some ex-porn star anymore. Like, she looks like a woman that's empowered, and I think they did a really good job with her. Again, your boy likes stealth games. I feel like they handled the stealth excellent. When I dropped into that game, like, it was a snowstorm and I got to hunt this deer and then skin it. Those are the types of things that I love to do in video games, and that's a great game. But I didn't want to cheat, so my 2016 pick is Overwatch. I really, really, again, I love multiplayer games. I love to kind of get in, have my fun, and get out. And that's what that game is. You had these battles that unfold. They take about 20 minutes per game, and then you're on to the next one. It's a game that if you do have a group of individuals to roll with, it only gets better. And I rolled with Mike a few times, and him being a noob was still showing everybody up in the lobby, because that's what Legendary Mike does. He fucks bitches up. And he has you asking for mercy. So he went in there with this boy with the bow, and he was just wrecking shit, bro. Like, literally, like, his third game, he was like player of the game, where you get your little cutscene and it shows like the highlight of the game. After his third game, Pedro, Mike's insane. But yeah, I really enjoyed the game. I loved the color palette used, nice and bright. The characters, so vastly different from one to the next. The game encourages you to use multiple characters. If you're getting your butt kicked in the match, you could quickly choose a new character and counter the attacks, because that's the way the game works. It's all about balance, and it's all about learning who to bring into a fight. If you're getting your butt kicked, what adjustment you need to make, and you have to do it all on the fly. So it's almost like a game of chess, if you will. And such a great game. I know you didn't get a chance to check it out, but man, it was so good.
Everything I've heard of the game, it sounds like it's an amazing game. I just haven't been into first person shooters lately, man. And I know Mike played it. He said it was dope. You said it was dope. To me, that just looks like a game that I don't know. Maybe I could get into it because again, that's a game that everyone kind of has their role, and if you play your role, you'll actually end up benefiting the team, which again is something that I really, really, really like because I hate playing those games where everyone just goes and kills everything and doesn't really, play as a team. But for that game, for everyone to have a role, you could be a healer, or you could be a tank, or et cetera, et cetera. And you actually just perfecting your role will make everyone around you better. I think is super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like looking back at 2016, bro, on this list of 5 years, interestingly enough, I think it's the weakest year. Would you agree with that, or would you disagree?
I would say 2015, I think, was probably the weakest year. If I had to go with, 2015 would probably be the weakest year. I think 2012, I think, was probably the strongest.
Yeah, 2012, which is, look, if you look at it like this, 2012 was the end of a console generation, which makes sense. You get these great games to hit it at the very end. Makes a lot of sense. Then when you start getting into like 2014/2015, that's when we're in the new generation of consoles. So maybe that's why we were seeing like a little bit of a drought for great games. I'm not saying 2016 was terrible. We did see Uncharted 4, but for me, I knew what that game was going to be. I knew it was going to be amazing. I knew the polish was going to be there. It's almost like they polished it too much and they focused too much on like art assets and like direction, and I feel like it took a little bit of fun out of the game. Like I almost like my games with a little bit of jank. Like I know it's weird to say, but that's just me. But maybe that's why we're seeing it. And then we come into 2017, bro. You know how hard it's going to be to pick this list this year, dude?
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, man, especially with new consoles coming out, and experiencing them on new technology. The Switch is doing great, which I like to see. I was a little hard on it, when it came or pre-launch, but now that it's launched and it's proven everybody that guys like Nate Wright, I'm pretty happy to see that, and I'm happy to see that developers are jumping on board too. The ones that are taking the wait and see approach, like EA. So,
yeah. Now, before I wrap up the show, I just want to head over to our Facebook group. We're on Facebook. Look for us, the Square Gamers. Just look under the group section. You'll find us. Where Jared Keller, 2012, Borderlands 2, we did not talk about that game, which was a phenomenal game. I'll give it that. Some reason it didn't resonate with me, which is weird because Borderlands 1 was one of my favorite games of last generation. Then he says 2013, Pokemon X. 2014, he agreed with me, Destiny. 2015, Call of Duty Black Ops 3. That's a huge game that I unfortunately missed. I think work was just taxing at the moment. And then 2016, he hit us with Pokemon Sun and Moon / No Man's Sky. So I guess he couldn't figure out which one he liked more. And No Man's Sky is one of those games that came out with huge controversy, like they overpromised. But that's his list. And then Michael Soto, he agreed with your boy Jared. Borderlands 2, 2013, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, which is a huge game. 2014, Dark Souls 2. 2015, Heroes of the Storm, which is a PC game. I heard a lot about it. I'm not a PC dork like him, though, so console master race. And then 2016, he hit us with Dark Souls 3. I'd like to thank everybody that hit up the group and contributed to the podcast. We appreciate it. Pedro, why don't you wrap up the podcast? Tell everyone where they can find us, and let's bring it home.
Absolutely. You guys can find us on Facebook.com/groups/The Square Gamers. We're also on YouTube. Search for The Square Gamers on YouTube. You can also see us at Instagram.com/The Square Gamers. Jay is doing some dope work on the Instagram and the YouTube, so definitely check that out. He's got a piece on the Far Cry 3 remaster. So you should definitely look out for that. He will also be doing a Square Gamers weekly news roundup that he'll be working very hard on, and I'm pretty sure will come out looking spectacular. If you guys see Mike on the streets, give him a pat on the back and tell him you're sorry for his loss and you hope he comes back soon. Pour one out for your boy. His PC is dead. This has been the Square Gamers Podcast. We're out.